Hi, John with Etrailer. If you own a Chevrolet Kodiak like this one, you're going to know that they come in a variety of submodels, from dump trucks to flatbeds to transit buses like this one that was converted to an RV. If you're looking to tow with it, we have universal receiver hitches that you can install on here like we did on this one, and Curt offers a 4-pole wiring kit, and that's what we installed on this. This is a 2009 Chevrolet Kodiak. So let's take a closer look at the Curt 4-pole wiring here. I'll get it out here for you so you can see. This is what you think of when you're thinking of the most popular light-duty trailer towing wiring here. This is going to have all the functions you need to get down the road safely and legally. You're going to have your right turn, your left turn, your trailer marker lights and brakes, and then your ground here. So this is no braking functions. If you need, if you're towing something heavier and you need braking, you're going to be looking at a different Curt wiring. This wiring kit has a converter box, and what that means is that it has its own power supply. We hook it directly to the battery, so this isn't going to be an extra strain on your vehicle's electrical system to power all those extra lights. You're safeguarded against, say, power surges or shorts, and it's going to protect your vehicle that way. So look, because there's so many different submodels with these trucks, you know, your situation is going to be different than someone else's or even ours when it comes to installing this, but we installed it on this Chevy here. So if you want to get the basic idea of how to do it or how difficult it could be, stick around and we'll show you step by step how we did it on this. So let's start the installation for our wiring. Now there's some key components that we need no matter what your setup looks like. We're going to need marker lights, we're going to need brake lights, we're going to need left and right turn signals. It's going to be a 4-pole setup here. So it's really going to depend on whether or not your vehicle uses the same light for turn and stop, or if it uses separate lights. Now, this kit will work for either one, but we need to know in advance. So we have a helper in our vehicle right now. We're going to have them turn on the tail marker lights. You can see both of our lights are using that. Let's go for a brake light. So the lower section here is our brake light. Now, if we do a right turn signal, so our right turn signal is on the top. So what we need to do right now is a right turn signal and brake. So you can see on our setup here that right turn and brakes and left turn and brakes are on independent circuits. So we're going to wire this up so that our 4-pole wiring is going to be correct for the vehicle and for the trailer that we're towing. Now to remove these lights here, this is kind of dependent on your vehicle, on whether or not you have enough room behind them. There's a number of different ways you can get these out. Sometimes you can pull on the rubber. Sometimes you can push the lights in, and that's what we can do in this instance. I do a little bit of both. I get my finger behind this flange here and I push down on the bottom, and you're able to walk the light out like that. Now, that really was looking easy because I've already pulled this out and I wanted to show you for the video. Yours are going to probably be caked in dirt and they're not going to want to move. So if you got some soapy water, maybe spray that around. And that just makes these a little bit easier to get out. And then once you get the one on the bottom, you can usually reach your hand up and push out on the light. That way you can get all 3 lights out at once. So I'll give you the overall game plan of what we're going to be doing here. I labeled our lights, and it's probably a good idea if you have more than one. It just keeps, there's a lot going on here. It's not difficult, but you want to stay organized. It's going to make your life easier. So we have our light up here labeled the turn and tail light, and this is going to be our turn, our brake and tail light. We've already snaked up tubing from the bottom of the truck here through the bottom because the converter box is going to be mounted down below. The green is going to be our passenger side turn signal. So the only things that we're going to be running up on this side are going to be 3 wires here. The ground, we can ground down on the frame. The red is going to be our stop. The yellow is going to be our left turn. And this brown, looks like it has a yellow tracer, but it's the brown wire is going to be our tail lights, our marker lights here. So we're going to have to extend these, of course, and depending on your situation as well, whatever cab and chassis that you have, just use butt connectors. We're going to be using heat shrink butt connectors because all of this is exposed to the elements. It is okay for this box and these wires to be exposed to the elements. So this is the bottom of the tube that we ran down the frame on the inside here, and I'm going to just tape this wire up. This is going to be our extension wire because the module will probably mount somewhere under here. So I've got the 3 wires here. We actually had yellow and brown. We didn't have red, but I'm going to use the white. I have that marked for us. And we're just going to fish this up. This is just some old airline tubing that we had. And you can use whatever you need to for your application, coat hanger or fish tape or whatever. But now we have our wires run up, and we're going to start with the tail lights or the marker lights, and that's going to be the brown wire for our tow wiring. So I've turned the marker lights on. You can see the top is on, and both of these were tail lights. So I'm going to pin this out. I pulled the one light out, and we're looking at a black, red, and white wire. And when I'm testing this with the test light, you can see that the black wire is going to be our tail lights. Now I've also had an assistant inside hit the brakes, and we know that the red is going to be our brake light circuit as well. Now we've turned on our turn signal for the top, and that's this wiring harness here. And at least for us, it's going to be the center green terminal. We can test that with the test light. I'll plug that in. You can see that that's going to be our left turn signal. So right now we have everything that we need pinned out. The black will be the tail light for us. The green is going to be our left turn signal. And the red is going to be our brake signal. And we're going to go ahead and make those connections. I'm going to get this harness out to where we can work on it a little bit easier. Because when you cut these on these connectors, these wires, we don't want to cut too close to the edge. But we're going to pick up the tail light from the black here. And we'll just do one at a time that way. Keep everything organized here. And our tail light that's going to go down to our converter box is the brown. We'll twist the black and the brown together here, and get a heat shrink butt connector. If you don't have these, we have these available here at Etrailer. Crimp those on there, give it a pull, make sure the connection's good. And we'll run this side in. This wire is pretty thick. If you ever have to do this with thinner wire, you can always strip the wire back and fold it over on itself to make it thicker. But this is going to work just fine for us today here. Got that tight. And the next connection we can make is the stop or the brake light. And we're going to do the same thing here, except we'll be hooking up to our white wire. If you're not going to have to extend your wires on your application, then it'll be the red wire on your converter box. Okay, so we have our brakes hooked, we have our tail lights hooked, so now we just need our turn signals. That's going to be the green one right here. And we'll be tying this in with the yellow wire that we ran up. Now we can take a heat source and we'll shrink these down. Now we're going to have the same problem on this side that we did on the other side with not enough wire in the kit. So we found some more green wire. This is going to pick up our right turn signal. We are going to connect that to our wire here. It's clearly labeled right turn lamps on this. This happens about once every 100 times, so this is amazing. We're going to hook this up to this, and we'll make all of our connections underneath. So we're over here at the right rear of the vehicle here, and this is where we came out with our green wire. We ran up this tunnel up to the right turn signal, and that's where we picked up our right turn signal. So we're coming out here and ran it across to meet up with where we mounted our converter box. Now, since this particular vehicle, it was like a transit bus, and then the owner is converting this to an RV. We have a shower drain over here. He's just in the middle of building this. So I don't know exactly if he's going to have some tanks over here. So I wanted to keep everything on this side and out of the way and dry. These boxes are rated to be outside, so it's not a big deal. But I went ahead and ran the ground for it in with the self-tapping screw on the back side here. So these were our connections. We ran the tail light, the right turn, and the brake up and over. And if you come around on this side of the frame, these are our wires that we traced and we brought in right here. And this goes up the other on the left-hand side to meet up like you saw earlier when we made our connections here. So that's the basic connections. The only other one that we have to do is going to be a power wire that we run from the back of the vehicle here, and it powers the converter box. We run that straight up to the battery bank that's up on the below the driver's door up there. So the kit comes with 20 feet of 10 gauge wire. That's this stuff right here, and it wasn't quite enough. We had to get probably about 6 more feet, and we ran it. Now I've already run this, and all I did, your situation again might be a little bit different, but I ran this wire up high on the frame and towards the front, and just keep it away from anything that's hot, that's sharp, and that's moving. So can't really see where I ran it, just know that it is up on the frame and up towards the front. Now this is the last connection that we're going to have at the back of the vehicle here, and this is going to be the power wire that powers the converter. This is the wire that I ran up to the batteries. It's not hooked up there just yet. We're going to do that next. So again, I'm going to use these heat shrink butt connectors. We have these available here at Etrailer. Give it a tug test. Then we use the heat source and shrink it up. Okay, so below the driver's door here, on this step, you have your battery bank under there. Now, I ran our converter wire. This is going to be our positive wire coming from the back of the vehicle up to here. Now, in order to access our batteries, you're going to have 2 either 18 millimeter or 3/4 inch bolts that you need to remove. You're going to have one on this side here, and you're going to have one on this side. I've already pulled the one out over here, and you'll see that the batteries are just going to end up sliding out. So I'm going to loosen up this one over here, and then we can access the batteries. Yeah, these bolts are on the side. They're in the same spot on either side too. It's really the only bolt you're going to see on the side of the frame. You can see our batteries here, and the way that they run the cables, they come down, they're looped down here, and there's enough room to be able to slide the batteries back without tugging on the cables. This is the exact same way we want to route our converter wire. So I'm gonna crawl under here again, and I'm gonna run it down with these lines. That way, when the owner pulls this out, we're not gonna have any issues. Now the kit is gonna come with a fuse holder and a fuse, and that's all included. We're going to keep the fuse out right now, and we'll make that our last connection. It also includes a ring terminal. I already have that installed on here, and I used one of our butt connectors. The kit does come with regular butt connectors. Again, I like the heat shrinks. So we're going to install this, and these are either 9/16 or 14 millimeter, and you want to be careful when you're doing this. If you have super tight spaces, then it's going to be best to disconnect the negative side of the battery so that you don't arc out on something. We're going to loosen this all the way. Sometimes these overmolded cables like this will have accessory studs that we can hook up to, and that's what I really prefer. The reason these are overmolded, they call them, and it just keeps corrosion from forming as quickly on these battery terminals. So although this isn't my favorite way that we're going to be hooking this up, it is perfectly okay. So I'm going to pop that one off, and I'm going to go straight down to the battery, just because this is going to be the least intrusive on these cables, the way that these cables hook up. So we'll just set that on the bottom, and we'll start this nut on top again. By pushing that all the way to the bottom and not having it in the middle, as we tighten this down, we don't have to worry about this ring terminal coming apart or splitting or causing any other problems. And our batteries are going to have a good connection because this clamps down pretty hard. Now I'm going to kind of run our power lead with this main power cable here, just because, like I said, this thing slides out and it's going to move, and we want to make sure that we have enough room. So that looks good right where we're at. Cut off some excess. And we can get this crimped up. Give it a tug. We'll shrink this with our heat source, and we'll insert the fuse. And this is a 10 amp fuse that comes with your kit. There we go. That was a tight fit. We'll put this cap on here. Your kit comes with zip ties, so you'll be able to secure this wire to this battery cable like we're going to do, and then we can go ahead and test our circuits. That's it. It'll slide back into place, and then reinsert your bolts. Now, with all of our connections made, and before we put the tail lights in the truck, we're going to go ahead and test our four-way circuit here. We have this tester, and we have these for sale too here at Etrailer. It's inexpensive, and it's a nice, easy, quick way to test your wiring. We're going to go ahead and hit the brakes first, and we can see the brake lights are working. We can turn on the tail lights. We can turn on a left turn signal, and then the right turn signal. Now, with everything confirmed working on the trailer 4-pole wiring, we can go ahead and reassemble the rear here and put the taillights back in, and we're ready to hit the road. And that was a look at Curt's 4-pole wiring kit on our 2009 Chevrolet Kodiak.